This video was sponsored by Skynet. Hashtag not actually sponsored.
Es de, no sé, el stupid manager, es stupid.
Yeah. Emotional damage!
They hold their dick more than us to be standing around with it. Get the fuck out of here.
So let's talk about stereotypes. And no, I'm not talking about the different types of stereos you can get to amplify music or noise. The definition of a stereotype is a wildly held but fixed and oversimplified image or an idea of our particular type of person or thing. For example, a stereotype for fast food is that it's probably cheap. A stereotype for rocks is that they're hard, although there are certain types of rocks that are actually quite soft. Or the stereotype that all YouTubers are bad people, that one's actually true.
Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic.
But this is not what we normally think of when we think of stereotypes. We normally think of stereotypes for gay people, or women, or men, or political groups, but most of all, when we think of stereotypes, we think about how stereotypes apply to our views on race.
That's racist!
But stereotypes about race have changed a lot over the years. For example, people used to have a stereotype about Mexicans being very lazy. Now it's kind of the opposite. A good joke about Mexican people is, how many Mexicans does it take to finish a holy shit they're done? Now granted, Mexican isn't a race, it's a nationality. You can be black, white, or Asian and still technically be Mexican if you have Mexican citizenship. Stereotypes also don't normally just come out of thin air. For example, take the black stereotype of loving watermelon. Who doesn't like watermelon? It's one of the best fruits of all time. But why is it a black stereotype in America specifically? Well, you see, after slavery ended in America, a lot of newly freed slaves ate, grew, and sold watermelon, and it became a symbol of their freedom. And I think the fried chicken stereotype came from Milton, like, specifically. I mean, he beat the shit out of his grandma for some. These stereotypes often show up in our media and can change the way we view people. Hang on, don't click off the video, I'm not going in the direction you think I am. Because while stereotypes have been in the media since basically media existed, a very strange thing happened during the early 2000s. For example, take the show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It has a black guy named Mr. Mosby who clearly has a stick shoved far up his ass. He's a business owner and he's a no-nonsense person. Wow, what a stereotype I associate with black people, am I right? London is an Asian girl. Isn't London such a stereotypical Asian name? And she's so dumb. Such an Asian stereotype, am I right, my editor? There's also this hard-working and smart blonde girl named Maddie. When I think of blonde white girls, I think of someone who's really genius and smart. Remember all those smart blonde jokes? Okay, so I think you guys get the idea. They take stereotypes, but do the opposite of them. I didn't realize this as a kid until Zack and Cody go to an alternate dimension where everybody acts the opposite of themselves. In other words, they act like stereotypes. Mr. Mosby acts like a goofball, London is smart, and the blonde girl is stupid. And before you all say, oh come on now, Jar, you picked one show to show that they do the opposite of stereotypes. Hang on, I got a few more examples from the early 2000s for you. Let's talk about the only two good shows that Butch Hartman actually made, Very Odd Parents and Danny Phantom. One of Danny's closest friends is Tucker.
Chemicals in the water!
Who's a black guy who's really geeky and into technology. Timmy's two best friends are Chester and AJ. Chester is a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan master race kid who lives in a trailer park. And AJ is smart, like crazy smart. And he's black. Speaking of smart black guys from the early 2000s, we also got Brain from Arthur the Aardvark, whose real name is Alan.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Alan.
I mean, it's pretty clear that he's smart considering that his nickname is the fucking Brain. Oh, and by the way, he's a bear. I know it's really hard to tell. I thought he was an aardvark like Arthur for the longest time, but no, he's a bear. And before someone says he's not black, okay, first of all, he's a pretty dark shade of brown, plus in the Christmas episode, he celebrates fucking Kwanzaa. Not too many Asian or white people celebrate Kwanzaa. Oh, and by the way, he also has a job at 8 years old. Now, I know a lot of these shows technically came out in the late 90s, but I'm still counting them. There is also this smart black guy in Kim Possible who did all the technical stuff behind the scenes, but,
I never watched it.
the guy who started Skynet was also black, which brings us nicely into the sponsor of today's video.
Are you fucking serious?
Skynet, community, family, protecting your home. That's what Skynet is about. For years, Skynet has built a lot of technology for the military, but soon you'll be able to have Skynet in your very own home. And if you're interested in protecting the environment, Skynet will soon be coming out with a product that will guarantee future life on the planet that we call home, successfully eliminating the biggest parasite to Mother Earth. And as technology advances more and more, soon our androids will be inextinguishable from humans. Sleep soundly tonight, knowing that Skynet is watching over Mother Earth.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I'm also not saying that shows from the late 90s to the early 2000s were the only shows that did stereotypes but the opposite, but I have noticed that this was a time period where a lot of shows were doing stereotypes but the opposite. In fact, for the longest time, I actually thought black people were smart, and then I met my roommate.
Hey guys, Professor Dreadlock here, the guy who built Jar. So you know I have to be big brain because that turned out well, right? Anyway, I'm here to talk about the impact nerdy black characters had on me while I was growing up. Growing up, I was acutely aware of the stereotypes surrounding black people when it came to intelligence. I don't think many of them need repeating. On top of that, until high school, I lived and went to a school in a really bad neighborhood, with an even worse school system. Most of the students in my school were black, and the majority of them lagged far behind children of other races. Growing up, I saw all of this, and it demolished my self-esteem. When you live in an environment like that every day, and that's your direct experience, you're gonna take away some negative feelings from it. Keep in mind, this was from elementary to middle school. On top of that, the one issue that a lot of nerdier black students faced back then was that interest in nerdy or academic topics often got you ostracized from your peers for good. I remember being accused almost every day of acting white by my peers because I wanted to mess around with robotics and didn't really care about sports or sneakers or other stereotypical things that I didn't know why every black kid was mandatorily required to be interested in. The point is that there was a pervasive and wrong belief that there were a few topics that you were allowed to enjoy as a black kid, and science and math was not one of them. And there would be consequences if you deviated from this. There also weren't many in real life role models in my neighborhood of academic black people that were involved in the community. Surely they existed, they just weren't involved in my life or any of my classmates. So from my middle school brain's perspective, they weren't really there at all. Anyway, I really loved Fairly Odd Parents. It was one of my favorite shows for a long time, and I remember that they had this character AJ. You know AJ. He was the type of kid to remind the teacher that there was still homework, but he was smart and successful. And so were his parents. He wasn't playing catch up with all the white kids. He was ahead of them. That was game changing for me. It put the idea in my head that even if there weren't any AJs in my own neighborhood, they definitely were out there somewhere. I just didn't know where. But maybe I could be one of them too. There were other examples too. Urkel from that show I was too young to care about. Then there was Hermes from Futurama, a smart but admittedly lazy bureaucrat. He was even West Indian like me, so I had a special attachment to that character. There was also Cookie from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, and Tucker from Danny Phantom, but he was also a furry, so we don't claim him.
That may be the hottest geek I've ever laid eyes on.
Yeah? How about now?
Are you fucking serious?
Anyway, those characters gave me an archetype that I could meld onto and build some type of identity I gravitated towards. And because they were so prevalent in TV shows of that era, it felt like a natural and normal place to fall into. It felt comfortable. It felt right.
So I think it's pretty clear to see that doing stereotypes but the opposite does have a positive impact. So if you want to be progressive, but actually make an impact and not put too much work into it, just take a stereotype and make it the opposite. Instead of having an angry black man, have a passive and nice black guy. Instead of having a passive but greedy Jew, have a generous and confident Jewish character. Instead of having a character who's a hardworking Mexican, have them be lazy. Have them be hardworking. Lazy. Okay, this one is a little bit difficult.
How about you have him be a Mexican that works only one job? You know, some food for thought.
Instead of having the main character white guy be an everyman, maybe give him some fucking personality. And if you're making a superhero series and one of the characters is black, maybe don't give them electric powers. Because seriously, what is it with black people and electric powers? Storm, Static Shock, the entire Cloud Village from Naruto, and plenty of others. I think even Miles Morales has electric powers. Spider-Man didn't even originally have those. Now I know I said in my last video that the next video was going to be a long one, but this is not the video I was talking about. That video is still in the works, and hopefully it will be the next video that comes out. But when it drops, it's going to be a big one. Okay, so it's It's recording.
Did you get that? Did it pick up me?
Probably. No,
Yes!
They won't know the context. We're not playing them.
I was wrapping my fingers around Jar's thick metallic neck. Can you put these into bloopers?
No, just...
Why not? Wait, there's no bloopers?